workshop if you think what we've done now in the workshop.
All right. We are rolling. So welcome everyone to the placemaking workshop. This is the first time we've done a virtual placemaking workshop. I don't know if it's the first virtual placemaking workshop, but it's certainly the first event of this type that I've ever been able to participate in. I'm very excited to welcome our guest speakers today, Andrea Ionko-Jakaru, who is the founding architect of Spectra and helped design everything you see around you, this city that we're standing in here. We also have the founder of Spectra Cities, Ryan Japetsky, who's here with Matt and myself. I'm in the Spectra avatar here with the pink hair. My name is Nick Kaufman. I'm the community manager. Matt is our other team member who does governance and all kinds of stuff. We're all wearing many hats as city modders, and we have an entire community of city modders in our Discord if you've been there. A lot of regulars here today. I see Steve and others. So welcome. We say city modder, but we mean basically our community is bringing together placemakers and world builders, virtual world builders, physical placemakers, and we're trying to build projects and generate ideas from pixels to bricks. So virtual to real life. How do we do it? What are the processes and the collaboration methods and tools that we need to work this way, these new affordances? So that's what we're all about. Please stay in touch with our community. We've got meetups every Thursday. There's one next week that's advertised over around the corner. It's going to be really interesting. We're having a presentation from a university in Germany that is doing grant-funded research using partially the city. So it's very exciting. Come back next week. I'm going to introduce our speakers today. And in fact, I'll let you introduce yourselves if that's okay, and tell us a little bit about your background, because you may have some stuff that I don't know. So our first speaker is Josef Conning, is a placemaker from A Spatial Story, and Andrew Iongojikaro is from Numina. And I'll let you guys take it away.
Awesome, thank you, Nick.
Press the C button
You
to
can
clap.
start, Andrea. Go ahead, Andrea.
Oh, hi everyone. So I'm Andrea. I am an architect and a VR and AR developer. And I love to work at the intersection between physical architecture and virtual experiences. And Spectra, this project, and the kind of workshop that we're going to do today are really just fascinating projects that raise all sorts of questions, not just about where the technology is and where we're going, but how the fact that we spend so much time in these virtual spaces and talking to each other through these virtual interfaces, whether 3D or not, is starting to change how we see physical space and how we interact, and the other way around. Joseph.
Cool. Yeah, thanks. My name is Joseph, and I'm an urbanist and spatial strategist based in Stockholm. And we will get to the workshop part in a few minutes, but I will talk a little bit about what I do and show you some examples of it. So I think I think we can dive right into it, actually. And first of all, I want to say thank you for having me. It's really great to be here with you all. I'm super excited about this session because it's the first talk and workshop that I do in a virtual world like this. Definitely not my last, but also I get to talk about one of my favorite topics. I will talk a little bit about how people relate to, identify with, and form connection to places. And I have a background in cognitive science. I've always been interested in human behavior in complex systems. And for as long as I can remember, I've been very fascinated by cities and the dynamics of urban environments. Cities, of course, being, if anything, highly complex systems. I think we have a really interesting relationship with the physical space around us. It's riddled with stories and rituals, and there are things we do or avoid doing for no other reason than that there are stories we have interlaced with these physical spaces. And I want to show you some examples of this. So let's walk over to the next billboard or poster right here. In Sweden, where I live, the most common types of manhole covers are these three. They have a letter on them, as you can see. One has an A, one has an FV or V, more often actually, and then we have a K. So when I grew up, every kid knew that you should never ever step on one with an A, never. It will give you bad luck. But the FV, or simply V, is great though, because that means friendship. The Swedish word for friendship is vänskap, starting with a V, obviously. And the K one is even better because that means love, as in kärlek in Swedish. And these stories, we learned growing up, and we share them growing up, obviously. And I still actually see people, even adults, jumping to the side, startled, just barely managing to avoid an A cover. Or I've also seen adults right in the middle of walking down a street, very discreetly take a slight step to the side to make sure they hit a K cover, and then get back to their original path. So these rituals are deeply ingrained in us when we move around in the urban space. And this is not just us Swedish folks being crazy up here. There are other examples of this, obviously, with corresponding rituals elsewhere. So we can actually walk over to sitting comfortably in Edinburgh. John Harvard in Cambridge, I think he donated a lot of money to Harvard. And then we have on the right side, Juliet of Shakespeare fame, standing proudly in Verona.
Sorry to interrupt you, Joseph. I just wondered if anyone else had any issues with some people disappearing.
Yeah, I had to reload my screen.
Okay, why don't
I do the same thing.
Let's take a quick pause.
Everybody
and just,
disappeared.
refresh our browsers. I think that if we all reload, it should fix the issue. So, if you want to hit the F5 key or try to reload the space, it should work.
And we're all looking at this picture of someone who has a statue foot fetish over here.
I want to hear about why people fixate on certain parts of statues this way. I've heard some stories recently in Japan about this issue as well. But yeah, Joseph, if you want to refresh as well, I think it'll make you visible again.
Okay.
This is probably the most people I think we've ever had in this space, which is exciting, but it's also like a stress test.
I also got kicked out, and I was actually going to send a link to a few more people. I think there are definitely more people that would want to join, but then I maybe I shouldn't.
Yeah, there's also always the option to watch on YouTube. So we have a link, which I'm going to put in chat here, just in case anyone else continues to have issues. Okay, this is the link to our live stream. So if you do get kicked out, feel free to watch from there. I will do my best to keep that view consistent with what we're supposed to see. And yeah, you could. Why don't we keep going, Joseph?
Yeah. Yeah, I hope it works for everybody now. I don't know where I lost you, to be honest. I don't know if you heard about the manhole covers and the stories connected to that, but let's jump back in.
Yes, we did.
Oh, great. And let's talk a little bit about these statues. Again, from the left, we have philosopher David Hume in Edinburgh, and we have in the middle John Harvard in Cambridge, and we have Juliet, the Shakespearean figure in Verona. And all these three statues have one thing in common. At least one thing, they come with a story about how touching them will bring good fortune. Not very surprisingly, you should touch different parts of the man and the woman. For the men, you as you can see, touch their feet. Different story for Juliet, as you can see, people go to these objects and sometimes from afar even to be part of these rituals and stories about these objects. And some of these rituals are cultural and something we share with others and bond over, whereas some rituals are more private, something we keep to ourselves or in a small group of friends, like spatial secret in a sense. And we will come back to rituals later on. But I just want to say also that the places around us, they have a great impact on our lives. We are highly influenced by them. Our cognitive capabilities, our sense of well-being, our relations to other people are all affected by the physical environment we're in. And my job is essentially about making places attractive and useful so that people and companies want to go there and stay there, and if they leave, come back again. So for me, that means I need to find ways to make places part of our memories and dreams, to make places something more and bigger than just the physical space we go to work in, or shop in, or hang out with friends in, or change trains on the daily commutes. I don't want places to be just useful and nice for people when they are there. I don't want people to have like out of sight, out of mind relationship with places, if that makes sense. I want people to be magnetically drawn to places, to form strong relation to them, and perhaps even fall in love with them, as I have with many places. And in order for us to do that, we need to understand the place. We need to believe in the place and identify with it. And the place has to become something that is knitted into our stories. So let's look at the poster or billboard. When I describe my job to people who are not very familiar with the field or the industry or business, I sometimes say I help companies make cities livable and lovable. It's obviously a simplified description, but sometimes that's helpful. So livable basically means being relevant and useful. A place has to provide a set of functions and features and experiences that are expected of that particular place, that fulfills the basic needs and that makes the place work for those using it. And this creates a quite functional and rational relationship with the place. But to be really attractive and wonderful, a lovable place, it has to have a soul, an identity that speaks to people on a deeper and much more emotional level. Such features and qualities are more intangible and personal, and they can be harder to figure out and adhere to, but they drive a more emotional relationship, and that is what I want to do. So obviously I need to address both these dimensions. When I do projects and do this in projects, I usually start by trying to understand the place. Doing a lot of desk research, I explore its history, its culture, its functions, its geography, anything that can give me input to understanding how people perceive the place and what they might read into it, and the expectations they have. Then I do a lot of primary research because I want my input or my strategic advice to be founded in solid insights about people and companies. And I interview people who have a relation to the place or who should have a relation to the place in the future. So for instance, people who will work there, live there, or shop, eat, drink there. And typically, we meet with people in the actual environments the places are in to be able to walk around and talk about their perceptions and feelings and hopes and fears in regards to that particular place. And we talk about overall values and attitudes and behaviors as well, and their general life situation. And I usually combine that with more high-level trend research or general insights aggregated from a larger amount of data. So with all this input, we can develop places and cover all these levels and dimensions that you see here. And as I see it, a key to successful identity, spatial identities, to interlace people's experiences and expectations of a place with the history and essential conditions of that place. There are great opportunities to create compelling stories in the intersection of those entities. And I will just briefly give you two examples from projects that I've worked with just recently. So let's move on to the next poster here. So Kista, north of Stockholm, that's an area that is highly divided. On one side of the subway tracks, there's a tech hub housing tech companies, startups, and one campus of Sweden's top institute of technology. That side's inhabitants are well-educated, affluent, but they are only there during daytime for work, meaning it's completely empty during the evenings and weekends. There's a lot of money going into that area. They've had like self-driving buses and lots of urban activation initiatives in the streets on that side. On the other side, however, we find a quite neglected residential neighborhood with a quite high number of people who are unemployed and don't know Swedish very well. So unfortunately, they struggle to find their footing in this society. And this is an area, I'm sad to say, where a lot of money is going out. They close down things and some businesses move over to the other side of the tracks. So right in the middle, there is this commercial center slash transportation hub slash library. And that's a spot where both these sides, people from very different worlds meet. And we have worked with creating a more inclusive story for this area and to develop this central commercial place in ways so that both groups feel included and feel that it's a place for them, as opposed to now when neither group feels included or that it's a place for them. And we have picked up elements and building blocks for a narrative and described how those building blocks and elements can be turned into a concept for this place. And just to mention a few examples of elements we've used, like, for instance, the youthful openness and curiosity of the engineering students and the young population in the residential area, and also the progressive cutting edge tech interest of one side combined with the other side's very rich and diverse cultural expressions, and also both sides' global perspectives, one of which being rooted in being part of a diaspora, so more rooted in history and looking back, and the other rooted in a very opportunistic, future-facing, constant movement forwards. And I could probably spend an hour talking about just this story, but we don't have that much time, so we need to move on, I think. So let's go to the next billboard. I will just mention a few things here as we're short on time. In Espoonlahti in Finland, we worked with an urban center right in between urban areas to the east and rural and archipelagic areas to the west and south. And the identity of this center is more urban, as the idea was to provide an urban spot right on the border or the edge of the city, the border to the western farmlands. And we discovered, though, that the people using it are much more interested in and aspire to a rural and archipelagic lifestyle, coastal lifestyle. So they find much more allure in the farmlands and coastlines. So we were able to drop conceptual ideas for how to turn this into a place that alludes to the countryside, how to draw inspiration from land and sea rather from the city. And turn that into manifestations in the physical space. So leaving Espoonlahti and speaking more in general terms, in parallel with creating an identity for a place, we often develop a high-level concept. And essentially, the concept shows how the identity is manifested in the physical space. And for me, it's really important to not come up with just an abstract theoretical concept. I also want to translate the values and qualities of that into something more tangible, and in greater detail convey what the place should consist of, look like, smell like, feel like. that makes sense. And I will just give you one short example of this if you follow me to the next poster, please. In Solna Strand, northwest of Stockholm, we did this repurposing project, and we helped turning an old industrial area with some office buildings from like the 80s, I think, or 70s even, into a new and more dynamic mixed-use area. And we developed many ideas that deal with that. But one key theme was to close the gap to nature. And this area is also stuck right in the middle of a dense urban typology to the southeast. That would be like central Stockholm, and more rural areas to the west and north. So proximity to nature was a big part of this. And we talked about various manifestations of that quality. Bottom right on that poster, you can see one of them, a workstation in the form of a chair that you can put in the small areas of greenery or out in the forest even. And as it's protected from the elements and has this small desk or tray, you can quite comfortably sit there and work out in the nature. And another thing was using the water in better ways. The waterways there are not, unfortunately, clean enough to swim in, but you can be on the water. And incidentally, the Swedish Military Academy is located really close to this area, and they don't have a rowing team, would you imagine? So rowing is not a big sport here, but it would be so easy to argue that it's ridiculous that our military academy, especially with a prominent navy, since we have so much coast and they're a sea with certain other country, it's unreasonable that our navy or our armed forces doesn't have a rowing team. So hopefully the key landowners in this area manage to involve the military academy, and we'll see how it goes. But I just want to make one more point before we start moving over to the workshop phase. So if you join me, please. Slide or next poster. I worked a while ago with a game developer who wanted to create a post-apocalyptic world for a new game scheduled to come out in a few years. And they wanted to understand what young people today associate with a post-apocalyptic world and what cities and other landscapes and spaces look like, and what different places are used for, and so on. And again, we describe narratives and rituals and different places and objects to paint a picture of an alluring, exciting, and maybe in some cases even an aspirational world that people can connect to. And when it comes to connecting to a place, I believe that to a great extent that the same emotional forces are in play when we talk about physical spaces and virtual ones. Obviously, there are many fundamental differences, but there are also similarities. And in a sense, I think connection might be even more important in virtual worlds, because in a world where everything is possible and it's not restricted, there are no restrictions by laws of physics or economic reality or architectural reality, I believe there might be a greater need to be grounded in or relate to and form an emotional bond to the place. Meaning if the purpose, or that is if the purpose is that you want people to really connect with. So I want to close by just reiterating one key point, so we can all walk over to the last poster here. So just to conclude, places, physical and virtual, have a significant impact on us. There are ways of helping people connect to places, but it takes a great deal of understanding of people's drivers and behaviors and emotions and experiences and hopes and fears. But tying three dimensions together, stories, rituals, objects can be powerful tools for the manifestation of a soul or identity of a place. And with that, I want to seamlessly slide into the workshop part of the session. So I'll hand you over to my partner in this, Andrea, who will introduce the exercise that we're about to do. And thank you so much for listening. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Joseph. So let's keep going towards the center of the intersection, and there is a slide right here behind this little hut.
I'm gonna actually
That will
yank everyone here.
Yeah, that will introduce the workshop. All right, perfect. Okay, so quick introduction to the topic of the workshop to bridge between Joseph's presentation and what we're about to do next. So let's, there were three words on Joseph's last slide: objects, rituals, and stories. So when we are dealing with these little happenings that are creating a sense of place, we often see the presence of these three elements. So we have objects, we have fountains, coins, bronze sculptures with polished shoes, we have bridges, we have locks, we have a particular, just a particular spot in the city. So there's always something physical about them. Then there is an action component to that. So you always do something. You touch the boot, you tie the lock, you throw the coin, and then you make a wish. So it's not about sightseeing. It's not about you seeing the fountain or seeing the sculpture. It has to be followed up by an action. And you have to do that as a person. The action is not enough for you to watch someone else do it. And then there's always a story, because without a story, there's no reason for you to do that. And of course, it's a story that you believe in, either literally or on a symbolic level most of the time. But it's interesting how even at the symbolic level, it acts like such a hook in our mind. And I'll give you two very quick examples from Eastern Europe, actually. So in all of Central and Eastern Europe, there is this tradition where in order to break the curse of ruins, so you can build a bridge on top of it, the master builder has to sacrifice someone in those ruins. So in Eastern and Western Europe, sometimes people, Eastern and Central Europe, sometimes people, when they are next to the foot of the bridge, you'll see little children go and put their ear next to the wall of the bridge, and they think they're hearing someone crying there. So that's like a very powerful story that generates this behavior when people who know that story and who are brought up in that culture see that special place, the foot of the bridge. Another example, also a little bit on the gruesome side, I guess. When you move a bit more east from west, things get a little bit more gruesome. In Sarajevo, who was on the siege, as we all know, for 3 years, and there were like snipers all over the city, there's this very special spot also related to a bridge, but it's on top of the bridge, and it's called the Lover's Circle. So there's just a spot. If you're a tourist and you don't know about it, you're not going to see it. It's not marked in any way, but locals know about it. And this is the spot where during the war, where your life would be in danger if you sat in the open because of the snipers. People would go and kiss in that spot, and that was a form to show their foolishness, but also courageousness and believe in love. And people still do that. People still go to Sarajevo and they go and they kiss in that spot. So again, there's the story, there's a physical location or a physical object, and then there's an action that is meaningful because you believe in the story. So what we're going to do in the workshop is we're going to divide in 4 teams, and we have assigned a ritual to each of the 4 teams. So we're going to give you the ritual, and then your task together with your team is to add to that ritual a location, which in our case is going to be a location in the virtual city here. You're going to invent a story connected to that ritual. And then you are going to find an object What is the tricky part is that all the rituals and everything here, location, story, object, are virtual. And we have picked rituals that you can actually do with your avatar in Spatial. So these are the rituals that we have. The blue team has jumping as a ritual. If you look at the on the bottom of your screen, there is a circle with a funny avatar, exactly. And if you click their reactions, you will see jumping. So the blue team has to invent a story and get some objects in whatever part of the city they choose. They can go wherever they want in the city here and come up with something that's about jumping. Then the red team has dancing. So the red team, your ritual is dancing. Make up a story about that. Yellow team has clapping, and the green team has waving. Now, before we break off, before you choose your team, a few pointers, like things to have in mind that will give you a starting point, because this task is fun, but it's not as easy as it sounds. So here's some things to ask yourself with your teammates. What psychological function do these strategies serve? How do you feel psychologically in expectation of you encountering that place and doing that ritual, or after? Because they have to serve this psychological function. Another question is, how do they affect the behavior of people in that place? So people have to behave differently around there. And of course, they have to know the story. Then something else to ask yourself is, what's the importance of this ritual in creating memories? We know that doing something has a much more profound impression on your brain than just looking at something. So when I visit cities in Europe, whenever I do the ritual, whatever it is, I throw the coins in the fountain in Rome, that would be the most vivid memory I have from Rome, because it's a visual accompanied by an embodied action that I did that happens to also have a meaning. And if I happen to have my wish that I made after throwing the coin be something very, very important for me, then I'm definitely going to remember that forever. So memory is very important. So when you come up with your story, try to think, okay, how is that gonna help turn the part of the city that you have chosen into a place where people form really profound memories. And again, if you're successful in that, then you also be successful in having people return to that to do it again. So replayability is a big thing in doing any kind of development work, like apps and games and everything. Why do you want to keep going back there? It's like you visited Rome once. Many people just can't get enough of it afterwards, so they keep want to go back there. Then why do these rituals only work in public? So there's something very, very important about this. If you take all of these examples and you imagine doing them in the privacy of your own home, they would not make any sense. If someone had a statue in their hallway or in their living room and they just touched the shoe every single time, that would just be bizarre. So there's something about these things being performed in the public eye, in the public space, that makes them really, really important. All right, so these were the tips that I had, the things you should have in mind. We're gonna have 15 minutes, perhaps 20, let's see how this goes, for you to work with your team. Two things, again, before you choose your team, or perhaps right after you choose your team. One, Nick is gonna show you very briefly how you can move objects around. Because of all the things that you see around the scene, you will be able to pick them up and take them to your chosen location in the city and use them as a prop. Although maybe your idea doesn't really need them. And speaking of this, another thing that came to mind is, don't feel like you have to be, your chosen location has to be like one little spot. Maybe, for example, if you're in the wave team, maybe it's more like one person is on top of a building somewhere, another one is on top of another building, and then there's a certain ritual that has to do with the waving. So you can spread wide. And the second thing is, Nick is also going to turn off spatial audio, or actually no, turn on spatial audio, so that you can go with your team in a different part, like choose a nook in the city. And if you are quite far away from everyone else, you'll be able to talk things with your team without hearing everyone else talking. So hopefully that works. We've tested it before. So it should be possible to treat this as a real space where you can go away into breakout rooms and have privacy.
So a couple of things. First of all, if you're watching us on YouTube, this is a great chance to maybe try hopping in the space again if you got disconnected before, and take part in the workshop. If we have similar issues, if anyone gets disconnected, just try refreshing first before anything else. It usually fixes it. Second thing, so when we break off into groups, so we're going to send people around the roundabout finding a colored team. That's when I'm going to turn on the spatial audio. It's pretty narrow, so you're going to have to be pretty close to people to hear them. When the time is up and we're going to bring the teams back together, I'm going to yank everyone back like I did before to one spot. So don't worry about knowing when the time's up. You'll know because you'll say you get yanked together. So that's how it's going to work. I'm going to show you right now how to move objects around. So let's go to the middle of the roundabout where we've gathered some objects, and I'll show people how to move them. So you should have the ability now, if an object is unlocked, to click on it and drag it around. I think only one person at a time can drag them around. Now, with great power comes great responsibility. So take care with that. There's an edit menu where you have some other options about how to move it and rotate it and scale it. But please be gentle and try not to crash the space. If you have a Sketchfab account and you want to bring in other models, again, be very careful with this, but you can go to the plus sign if you have this ability. If not, ask one of us and we can help bring in models that you need. If you need a certain prop, just come find me with the pink hair and I can help you. It looks like everyone's more or less figured it out. So why don't we find a way to split up the teams then? What do you say, Andrea?
Yes, that sounds perfect. So you will see these big slides with the color. There are 4 of them. So take a moment to pick one. I'm going to, while you do that, I'm going to repeat again. Blue team is jumping. Red team is dancing. Yellow team is clapping. And green team is wave.
Okay, let's go find a spot. I'm not going to turn on the spatial audio until everybody's found a team. If your team has a lot of people, consider moving across the intersection. Find a team that doesn't have as many people. You should probably have about 3 or 4 people in your team.
Yeah.
Right on.
And I would say,
I mean, I'm getting like good 6 feet here, you know.
Yeah, you got the
jumping is where most superhuman.
What's that, Andrea?
I would say you, Joseph, and I should also join a team.
Yes, I'm going to join the
so
jumping team.
maybe we balance out the teams that have. Let's see. Everyone has 3 people.
I need to join the ultimate
and let's make
Frisbee
sure
Spectra team with this jumping.
Yeah, let's make sure there's one staff member on each team. If someone is there a staff member who can go to the red team?
I'll go to dancing.
And maybe one of the
everyone wants on the
everyone
dancing
wants to
team.
be dancing, which is okay. You don't have to move, but if anyone wants to come to the jumping team,
yes, that's fair.
Shit, I can dance better than that, but I can't jump like this.
I have some great ideas for jumping. So if anyone wants to join jumping, want to join our team? Okay, we got GameStop here. Great. All right, I think we're good. Okay, I'm gonna turn on the spatial audio. If your microphone, if you don't know how to use your microphone, the bottom left is the unmute button. And if you're not connected to the right microphone, there's audio settings in the top right 3-dot menu. And your browser may have blocked your microphone, in which case you have to usually click a button in your browser taskbar, like the address bar, to unblock give permission to your microphone, if that makes sense. Okay, ready? Here we go. Fall off turning on,
we're good.
And we'll see you on the other side. All right, can anyone hear me?
But yeah, I can hear you. But
you can
is
hear
there
me.
any
All
parameter
right. And space travel and
distance?
We can still use text chat too. If anyone doesn't use mic, it's fine. Oh wow, he's got even responses, yes and no. Like that's amazing. I love the custom avatar. That's so cool. Jeez. You can swap yes or no. So I have a jumping ritual already that I do here, actually. I love jumping. I can show you what it is. So my jumping ritual for Spectra is jumping up the plant statue in the middle of the roundabout. So see right here?
Okay.
And you can do this now because there's double jumping, so you can press spacebar twice.
Either the top of the bridge
Yep.
or the underside of the bridge. What do you think?
So I'm not a, yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
So I usually do this like once every time I come to the space. It is kind of like a ritual for me.
Like waving to people from somewhere? Because I was also.
At least I'm in third person. I hate first person platforming games. Where
Yeah.
you can't see your feet. Oh, I hate
I'm
those
a big
things.
first person game player. I love them, but I like
I don't mind
this as
first person
well.
shooters. I mean,
Yeah.
I prefer ones where I don't have to
The
spin around too
platforming.
much because it gives me vertigo.
Oh, I like
But
the
the
fast
platforming
ones.
in first person, it's like, how the hell are you supposed to know how far you are from the edge or
Oh,
anything?
look at
It's just
this!
the
Look at
worst.
this blue team. We're on top of the world.
And
I don't know what kind of
Yep.
props we would want to
And
even
it was all
use
about
for the ritual.
verticality.
Wait, so let me remind ourselves.
Wait a minute,
of
this
what we have
guy's
to do.
avatar just changes over time.
It's amazing. Yeah, you can do custom avatars now.
Who is this guy? And it's like, I think his whole
Yeah.
like GameStop thing is just
Yeah,
some
yeah.
sort of, postmodern, like
for the
we're all
memes.
gonna have to like have, you know what I mean? Carry
Yeah.
advertising with us wherever we go.
Oh, that's
I
an
think that's what
interesting
he's
idea.
saying.
Yeah, that's.
I
I'm
think
gonna
that's what
rent out
he's saying, is
space
he's
on my
making a statement.
avatar too. Yeah, he's
Avatar. Yeah.
So
That's what he's doing, demonstrating the correctness of my statement, right?
So we have 3 parts to this: the location, the story, and the object. So I think we have the location, which is here, and we have a story, which is that every time you
Yeah,
come
we
to the,
reign supreme.
yeah, every time
Oh,
jumpers
sorry,
are the
sorry.
best. Yeah, parkour, right, for life. And every time you come to the spatial intersection, you have to climb this statue to assert your dominance. That's the story. If you're a parkour enthusiast or a skateboarder, I mean, it's always been about reasserting your spatial agency over your environment, right? So that's our ritual.
And your age, in my case. I mean,
Yeah.
I used to do parkour when I was a kid,
But
so
we
like,
need we need like an object, and I'm thinking, okay, what do you think? Maybe the object is something that you leave here at the top to prove that you've been to the top. What do you think? Like a ball? Yeah, that's a great idea. Okay.
yeah, I mean, there's no.
What would it be like realistically? Like maybe something small, like like a key or a. So it has to be something ubiquitous, everyday life object, and maybe small-ish. Yeah, a little ball. We leave a little ball. It reminds me of tradition in a lot of massively multiplayer online games. I think it started in the game Guild Wars 2, but people would challenge themselves to try to climb buildings in the towns that they weren't supposed to climb. So there
Probably
was this
because there
whole
wasn't
thing.
anything else good
It
to
was
do in
like,
Guild Wars 2.
yeah, there was like this whole thing about climbing the churches, and I think it spread to Elder Scrolls and stuff as well, to try to climb every church in the Elder Scrolls game.
Yeah, and then that got formalized, the things sort of like in those. What's that game? It's in the memories. You're always in the Middle East in the first ones, and now it's like got so many thousands of iterations. Assassin's Creed.
Oh, right. And
Right.
yeah, that's how you
Jumping
scan.
off the stuff.
Yeah.
Jumping off the stuff into the
It's funny, that's
various hay bales.
in those games. That's the first thing you do when you get to a new zone, to scan it, and so it's almost like it is a ritual that you do the first time you go somewhere, which actually makes sense. Like
Right.
when I think about going to places for the first time, I always try to find like an overlook or a place to figure out like where I am. I wonder if this chair still works. Let's check.
That's actually one of the main concerns I have with my design, is that it's like flat in that sense.
Amazing.
In the sense that there aren't any vantage points over the whole city
Right.
that are beyond,
Yeah, Spectra's
but
design
at the
is
same
also
point,
pretty flat.
if you just at the same point, if there's just occasional platforms that people can go up on that go above the greenhouse, it'd be like a really, really cool,
Yeah.
you know, how much it would, you know, it sort of takes away a lot of its design so that no one has that viewpoint, so that, you know, people can't be spied on and they can do
Yeah, Peter with Peter's
sunbathe
art
on their roof
project
or whatever they
also
want to do and
involved
not
like
worry about it. But
yeah, Peter's New Babylon project involved like the floating stuff in the sky as well. The sky's definitely like, especially in virtual worlds, like the sky is often used. I was in this test for the RP1 platform yesterday, which was really cool, but they also had a space up in the sky. It was like a blimp, and that was their lounge, and you could travel around the city from there. It's interesting. But they
yeah,
didn't
I
start
mean,
the
unless
event
we
up there.
get drones under control, though, I mean, I think
Yeah.
the greenhouse roof is going to be more of an amenity than a problem with
Yeah,
closing off people from the sky, so that
yeah.
you know,
These
assassin
bridges,
drones
I
in the
mean-
worst case can't come and get them.
These sky bridges here in Spectra could be really interesting. I wonder what people would do with them. I know on like, you know, highway bridges, they're often a site where people put signs and protests and stuff. So it's like a place to get everyone's attention from up on these bridges. You can see them in the distance.
I mean, just the idea of build bridges that go from building to building
Hmm.
are just kind of give an organic sort of multi-layer connected feel to a space, even if they're not that dramatic.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? It has that sort of, you know,
yeah.
that, you know, I was always kind of jealous of like hamsters, you know, and their like elaborate environments as a kid. I was like, why can't I live somewhere like that?
Yeah. So I think the only thing missing.
You know what I'm
from
talking
our,
about? Where they used to have those hamster
oh,
hamster
right, yeah.
playthings where they have the little bowls and they'd have the tubes. You'd have these different systems, and you could put like a
Space is,
toy over here
space
or
traveling
like
is bunny hopping around it. That's also my favorite thing to do in the games that I play is bunny hopping, which started as a glitch in one of the first person games. I don't want to get too down the rabbit hole, but people.
what is
figured out,
bunny hopping technically there?
in the first Quake game, John Carmack then ended up working on the metaverse stuff, right? In Meta, when he made the first one of these 3D first-person shooter games, there was a thing where you could turn in the air, and actually, I think it's on this platform too. But where you can, when you're in the air, you can turn and actually move and change your momentum, which you obviously cannot do in real life. And that became a
right.
whole.
Right.
That became this whole pogoing mechanic that all the players learned to do, and they started to really enjoy it. And now it's like part of their culture. But it started as a glitch, so it's these sort of like exploiting the environment, exploiting glitches. I think translates across physical and virtual in terms of rituals and culture that develops. Certainly, skateboarding, you know, makes use of handrails in a way that was never intended, and so forth.
Yeah, but at the same time, like I think motion, particularly, you know, I don't know, just things are not grounded at all in physicality enough for me in video games. You know,
Yeah.
like something like those, you know, the climbing games when they are a little bit more difficult, and you're like, oh, can I quite make this jump or something like that? That gets me a lot more than, you know, just being able to spin around and do a lot of
game.
unrealistic. So it's I don't know.
I also love games that have grappling.
The more
hooks.
subdued, the more visceral it feels to me. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
You know, because
understand
it already so exceeds my abilities in real life
right.
that like once it goes too far, then I just lose
as
you
so,
know, like
yeah, Steve, as the owner
like the
of
Spider-Man games. Have you ever played?
Oh yeah, no, I love those.
Have you ever played this?
Someone
Like
made
the web swinging, and that is just the most visceral thing in the world.
Someone made a first-person mod for that for VR, and it looked like the most nauseating thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, I imagine.
So I think the only thing we're missing for our story is like why this object. So if we pick a ball or we pick a dog, like why did we pick this object? What's the significance of the object? And so what is it that we leave?
I don't know. We jumped on someone else and took their ball. I don't know. Like, you know, like Super Mario style.
I mean, it's gotta, if you're running and
Yeah.
jumping around the city, it's probably got to be something small that you have in your pocket. Unless you're trying to do like really show off that you could carry a big object up a thing,
But that's yeah. I mean, that's objects only require telekinesis, not the.
Yeah. I like the idea of this radio. Like, what if you put a little radio or audio thing? That was your ritual. That would be expensive, though. It's got to be something pretty cheap. Like a coin. I mean, if you just drop
But
a
once
coin,
again, we're dealing with the constraints of the thing versus reality. As
right.
you
In
know,
virtual,
it's
it could be totally different, right?
we're already talking about, okay, if this was physical,
Yeah.
bringing a heavy thing up here would make sense.
I like this
because
idea
it
of
would
the
be
chair because
difficult
see,
to
this
do.
wasn't
But
the
the
chair
fact
wasn't
that there's
initially.
not.
Yeah, the chair wasn't initially an object that we were going to use for this exercise, but Space brought it up here, and so I think for the virtual version of this, like maybe using these chairs because they're kind of ubiquitous items here in the spatial platform. So if there's a ritual that involves taking a spatial chair and putting it as high as you can, I think that would be a pretty. I could see that
Yeah,
developing
right.
into
Like
thing.
sneakers over the phone
I
line.
like this dog as well, with the megaphone. That's great.
Yeah.
And then we put stairs for all the non-jumpers to get up here. I'm going to take a little walk around just because I'm running the YouTube stream so that I can hear a little bit about what everyone's talking about. I'll be right back.
That's
All right, makes sense.
So I think that's great. Oh, hey, Nick.
Hi, just watching.
Yeah, all right.
If you want an object for the flamenco, there is the instrument, the castagnette.
Yeah.
That's the object.
Yeah.
I mean, when people grab a castagnette, they will automatically do the castagnette clapping.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Or
Let's go to Team Red.
So locking eyes with the building, and the other thing that came to mind while you were talking is this feeling or idea of recognition. Like when I go back to the town where I grew up, the thing that makes it, so punchy is that there's this deep feeling of recognition, and there's this deep feeling of somehow the place recognizing me back. I mean, of course, that doesn't happen. That's just all in my head, but it has that.
Let's see. Is there any other groups? I think there's another group, but I don't know where they went. Hi there. Proximity is still on. If you're wondering why you can't hear people. Oh, there's
Where we're bringing our chairs to the top of high places.
We've got
so
competition, and then they're higher than us.
Exactly. So exactly, that's what we should do. We should grab our
Wow.
chair and go over there.
Oh boy.
I remember where it says
a socially
in our
recognized
land,
catalyst for
everything that every tree,
studying
every
dance
bird,
party,
and every
impromptu
river.
dance party. I guess not impromptu
is
because
our
it's
friend.
scheduled daily, but
And it's very strange because
I mean, it would be
when
really
they
cool to
were
see how
doing
many,
this,
like how many
depending how
people can
far
fit
you
up here
go,
at the same time.
different kind of trees and different kind of birds and different kind of rivers.
If it catches
oh,
on.
Sense of like everything you.
And what happens to
kind of speaks your language and is like your kind of
animation?
I just
your
traded spots
kind
with
of
whatever
tree,
that
because
is.
it does behavior
I'm not
that
sure how I
you're
did that.
familiar with.
Oh, space traveling.
Oh, we win.
Yeah,
We win.
Made it to the
We got
top.
higher.
And the way that kind of
Can you tell what our ritual
That
is?
is hilarious.
that becomes
might
home.
be
I
something
think that would be
involving
amazingly
jumping.
powerful.
I wonder if you can still. There
So
we go.
in terms of the
Oh.
practicality of it would be the giraffe.
No, Nick, we
would
can
wave
combine our
back if you
rituals
are in a
because you can jump and
particular
dance at the same
location.
time. Nick has vanished.
I like
Uh,
the of
we-
spatial places.
Back when we were doing this for the first time, I remember we figured out how to get ourselves up where we were not supposed to be.
And this
I remembered how
moment of
to get higher
recognition where
than we were
the-
supposed to be.
the giraffe or the graffiti waves or winks at you.
Originally, I thought the jumping would be cool because in real life, I get motion sick or like from going down really quick roller coasters. And even in video games, like I'm playing Tears of the Kingdom right now, and whenever I jump from a really high place, I get that feeling in my stomach.
Oh yeah.
So I wanted to see what, and that's a really memorable feeling for me. So I was
Yeah.
wondering what it would be like to skydive from the top of like the
It's
hub
funny that
tower.
games
all the
have
way
different
down.
ways of conveying that feeling. Like one of the ways that games convey that feeling, whoops, I gotta get all the way back, is by changing the field of view when you're moving fast, which is something we don't have in real life. I was saying one of the ways games do that is changing your field of view, like while you're moving fast. Uh-oh, we figured out how to scale objects.
And it cannot be purchased by a tourist like immediately.
The thing, I loved virtual events because there was no cleanup involved, and then I realized there is cleanup.
What if it's like a
We can just
simple
roll back the entire space.
You can do
Yeah.
that, but I'm a little worried it would
That's
change some
crazy.
stuff that we want to keep.
The giraffe, it could be like I don't really
That's
know
fair.
how to like indicate it.
Yeah, I don't think the it's as good as like GitHub in terms
a
of
crescent or
Yeah.
a symbol or
waves.
something like that. And when you looked at it, like the building had like
Let's see, what's our
a
time?
wave of
We're at 1.
color
I think
or,
we
like,
should bring people
equivalent,
back.
like an LED screen going across it. Put in a space or
Yeah, I think so. Hello.
All right.
Hi.
Hello, welcome back. I've turned back off the audio fall off, and I've disabled editing. People were just figuring out how to scale objects up, so just in time. But yeah, hold the thought that you were in the midst of, because it's time. We're arrived at 1 p.m. and it's time to maybe share our stories before we end. So if you can remember who was in your team, maybe we can call the colors, Andrea, and then one person can volunteer to maybe walk us through the ritual. We're trying to show more than tell, since we're in the 3D world after all.
Yeah, let's start with the blue team. That was the first team. So we need one volunteer from the blue team showing us the jumping ritual, like enacting the jumping ritual and then telling us the story behind it.
How about you, Steve, since you had the microphone from our team? You there, Steve? I can do it too. I was in the group, but just giving Steve a chance. We were the jumping team, and our ritual involved something that I was already doing as a ritual, actually, coming to this space a lot. Every time I come to this space, ever since they introduced this double jump feature, I've been climbing this statue in the middle of, and just, I don't know, makes me feel good to be up here. I don't know why I do it, but I did it every time. So we started by climbing up here, and then we were thinking, okay, maybe the ritual is that you climb to a space, the tallest space that you can find in the public space, and leave an object there to sort of, there's some aspect of it that's like asserting your agency and dominance, sort of like a skateboarder might do over their environment. And then maybe there's some aspect about just getting to a new place and wanting to find a vantage point, which I think is a very innate human thing. And it's worked its way into many games, actually. Like we were talking about the Assassin's Creed games where you have to climb these towers to scan the zone when you arrive at a new zone. And that's how you get your mission objectives. So yeah, we thought about maybe you bring an object that's very ubiquitous and use that as a way to express that you were there. And in the virtual world here in spatial, the ubiquitous object is these default chair items. And so without prompting, our teammate Space Travelin brought this chair up here. That wasn't even in our kit of parts, but I thought that's a cool idea that maybe in you visit a spatial world and you try to get these spatial chairs up as high as you can. And that's sort of how you leave your marker, enter the new world. So that's I guess our ritual. We had to think, one, psychological, how we felt. We felt sort of confident, strong, full of agency, asserting dominance. And then number two, how does it affect people, behavioral? I think just the behavior of wanting to get to a high part is very built into like the concept of architecture itself, because like the overlooks and shelters are like very elemental pieces of that. So anyway, that's group blue team.
That's awesome. Thank you, Nick. I love the idea of a ritual that has to do with your first arrival, right? Like this thing of arriving somewhere. I guess this is mostly an American story, since you guys are the only ones that got to still have this fresh in your minds of like you have arrived somewhere.
Oh boy.
Whereas us European is like we've always been here. But I think in the virtual world, I do get that though. It does feel like I am discovering a new land, like I have arrived here. So centering the ritual around that is very interesting. Super cool. All right, next is the red team. You guys had the fun one, the dancing ritual. What is the story that you came up with?
How about Jonas?
Well, I guess originally, yeah. I guess originally the thought was maybe like if you were in the courtyard, there could be some time-based catalyst, like the sun setting and like they're over the edge of the building, where at that moment everyone in the courtyard is kind of expected to stop and dance for a minute. But eventually we couldn't. Rather than going into a courtyard, we decided to when that spire over there, kind of like a sundial passes the giraffe. That is the catalyst. But I guess the idea is, you all probably seen the video where like at a music festival, there's like one person dancing and then a second person joins them, and all of a sudden it's like a million people. I guess my thought was like everyone likes dancing when they are given the social impetus to do so. So I don't know, it's kind of like a fun, silly bonding ritual. I guess it would make you feel free, and the behavioral effect would be kind of like let down your guard and bond with your neighbors.
That's so cool. I love it. It reminds me of like the way I'm imagining what you just said is you come to a virtual space for the first time, and all of a sudden everyone starts dancing for a second or does this funny butt wiggle, and you just have no idea why they're doing that and what just happened. So then you engage in this process of figuring out what the heck did just happen, and then maybe tomorrow you come again and the same weird thing happens and you have to ask around, hey, and then you realize that there was some kind of sign that you missed, and from the moment you start picking up on the sign, then you become, you kind of start to feel one of them because you can now pick up on the sign. So that's pretty cool, and it could totally work in a virtual space. All right, yellow team, clapping. Yes, yellow team, what's the clapping story?
Yeah, so actually we have two ideas, and we're gonna go through them really quick. The first one is when you feel entirely alone in the city. Sometimes you walk through this sort of cityscape and urban landscape, and you don't really see anyone around, and you might feel a little bit lonely, and some people might feel uncomfortable and unsafe from that. So we thought about these like sonar pings that submarines do, for instance, that you can just, I don't know if it's possible here, in spatial, no. But if you do like a single clap, just like a ping, and if anyone hears like a single ping, they can do that back just to indicate that, oh, I'm also here. There's someone else out here in this empty, vast cityscape, which might provide some level of, or some feeling of well, not being alone, I guess, and safety and yeah, connection to other human beings. And that's one thing, and Peter will briefly mention the other one.
Yes, thanks, Josef. The other one was is inspired, or is the flamenco club, where basically two rhythms come into a joint group performance, where they modulate almost by magic the rhythm that's going on. So the object would be the castagnette. If somebody picks up a castagnette, that's the obvious thing you do. But then you get into the rhythm of, which is quite complex because it has a counterpoint sort of rhythm. And as a group, you have to be in the rhythm, in the flow. So it's about group performance, as opposed to the first example, which is more answer response, sonar ping. That's it.
Yeah, it's more social interaction, and Adjoa had a brilliant point that she added, that different cities and different neighborhoods can develop their own rhythms. So that becomes like accents almost, so that you can sort of identify people if you want to by the rhythms. Much more playful and joyful than the first one, for sure.
Awesome. I love that. I even wonder if at some point spatial maybe can let people add their own sounds and dancing, so different groups can share their own dancing moves.
Yeah, you can actually already. You can add your own animation, avatar attachments, and it dances, and even a boombox with different songs if you want.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. So if you see a group of people around here doing some cool moves, you might be like, oh shit, how do I get that? So you might kind of pursue them and try to join that group.
Yeah, you might have noticed our team members' avatar can swap forms here. So this is the beginning of some interesting stuff.
I love that. That's so uniquely virtual as well. I'm glad we're doing this. I'm glad we're recording it. All right. The green team. So I was in the green team with Sadie. That's what her avatar says, but her name is actually Jen, right? Do you want to go and present what we were working on?
No, why don't you do it?
Are you sure? Or
I am.
all right.
Yeah.
All right. Let me try to outline it, and then feel free to add any details to it. So we had the wave, and we were talking about an action or an event that has some emotional weight, that maybe some initial character did in a certain dramatic context. So when you replicate that gesture, you kind of take upon yourself, you reenact the drama of that initial moment. But then Jen had this amazing idea where she said, well, what if somehow it's the building or the spatial environment that waves back at you, or that is the cause of that initial moment. And then we started this very interesting conversation about how you might be able to lock eyes with a building, or how again, we're talking about virtual building, how a piece of the city that in a physical environment, it would not be anything you could change or animate, but that it could become more organic, so that you could enter a relationship of recognition and reciprocity with a piece of building or a balcony or something like that. So we were thinking maybe the giraffe or a balcony or a building corner or a piece of the roof from certain key areas that only people who have been in the community for a long time know about. From those key angles, that piece of virtual architecture would wink at you. Either it changes color, or it shows you a little animation, or it just does something to create this moment of connection, but it's with a virtual piece of wall.
I put some eyes on the building.
Matt says reminds him of the portraits in Harry Potter. Yes, something like that. I think that would be amazing, and I think that's exactly the kind of stuff the virtual city should do.
Super interesting.
Yes, Steve says waiting is key. Yes, waiting, so something that doesn't happen immediately and something foreigners do not know about is also key, you know, something that takes time to find out about.
When we first started to talk about this city or the community, and we had this fantasy about having a secret pub somewhere, like down an alley. I still think that would be a very cool idea.
All right, I think we have gone through all the 4 teams. I think this was awesome. So before we wrap up, I want to quickly give the word back to Joseph. So we end up with a full circle.
Oh, right. Thank you, Andrea. Yeah, I mean, this has been so interesting, and I've enjoyed this so much, really. And like talking about connection to place is my favorite thing, and also listening to all these ideas about actually doing that in various ways, in very playful ways, with different types of rituals that we've done here for the last half hour or so. Yeah, it's been a pleasure and privilege to be part of this. So thank you all so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks so much, everyone, for coming. I know we're a little over time. Thank you to everyone who made it to the end, and everyone who's still watching on YouTube. Please get in touch with us. We're a really young community, and we're looking for more folks, world builders and placemakers, to join and help us experiment. This was totally experimental. We had no idea how this was going to go. If you want to do something, try something like this with us, just reach out to us on Discord, or through our website, spectracities.com. There's a link to our Discord if you're not in it over here on the wall, next to this purple banner. And this banner right here in front of me is our next talk next week from Eva Kastensnor, PhD, and Meng Kai from TU Darmstadt, who are presenting a project that they're working on with Anders and Numina, and using the Spectra City partially. And it's a project that they've just gotten a large grant for from the EU. So I'm very excited to hear about it. Next week at the same time, right here in this intersection, you can use the same link you used today. And we have our talks right in here, which is our little plaza we converted for talks. So yeah, thanks to everyone again. Any other calls to action? Anyone have anything they want to add? Yeah, feel free to post any extra thoughts in our Discord.
Start every event by dropping new items up to the top of this thing in the intersection. Yeah, as long as we don't crash the event.
This person's avatar has live reactions, so they can say yes, no, and fantastic. So even though our teammate was nonverbal, we were able to communicate through the avatar, which is amazing. So cool. Thanks, Rebecca, and YouTube is saying thank you for the fantastic presentation workshop. Thank you so much, Rebecca, and thanks to everyone who came out today.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow,
thank you.
He's got even
Thanks,
higher
guys.
tier. Can you actually type into that avatar, I wonder, or if it's all pre-set words? That's so cool. No, I can't type into it. Just
thank
preset.
you, guys.
So
bye.
Cool. Thanks, everyone. See you next time.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Nick, what if we end every
every stream.
Stream by adding enough things in the center of this intersection until the space crashes.
Oh my god, please no. I came to the virtual world to escape that type of event planning cleanup. Look at all this stuff we have to
Nonsense.
clean up now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep the stream running and show everyone this is what we have to do. Every virtual event. Let's go through.
Want help?
Go through and delete. We don't want to delete everything, but because I want to leave this installation up, but we do want to delete just these objects in the middle of the roundabout. And we could leave the team things up too. Actually, I want to keep that there so people can see what we did for the next week or so until TUD's truck. I kind of want to keep the dog though. That's so cute.
Oh, we should keep Hachiko.
Yeah, we could keep
Is there
the
another
Hachiko
dog you're talking
statue
about?
and we can keep these animals. Are they locked already? Yeah, they are. Great.
Excellent.
I don't even mind.
Oh,
We can
they're
keep the chair
stacked on
too.
top of each other,
Yeah.
and they have a megaphone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
I like
the chair.
I think the chair can stay. Yeah. Let's just get rid of the ball and the. There we go. That's pretty good. Let's see. Was there anything else? Oh, this plaza chair. Somebody put the plaza chair, patio chair on top of the statue.
I wish it had a collider so we could actually hop on top.
Yeah, that would be so cool if you could add objects with colliders.
Forget it.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, it's
put
fine.
in the,
Got carried
I got
away.
it as high as I could get
Spirit of the moment. Yeah, we can just redo
Yeah,
it.
it happens to me.
Thanks for coming, Steve. That was fun. Once you actually get doing stuff in here, it's really
So
fun.
I'll just. All right.
All right, I'm going to end the broadcast now, so it's a reasonable length. Thanks
Okay.
everyone for
Hey,
watching.
what's going on with this thing on the 11th of July?
Which one is that? Is it the New York? one?
I don't know. It's something in New York. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
the
I
metaverse.
promised Greg
Metropolis.
while we're still live. There's an event in New York City. If you're in New York City, it's called the Metaverse Metropolis Forum, I think, and it's basically a futurism kind of workshop. Very much like this, but like in the actual city. Greg's using Microsoft space, which sounds really neat. It's called the Microsoft Garage, and it's like a co-working space for Microsoft employees. So it's not a place that you usually get to see. And that's in our Discord in the general chat is the event for that. It should be very cool. All of Greg's events are really neat.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking about it.
Yeah. I recommend checking it out for sure. All right. See you everyone watching on YouTube.
You're not planning on going. You're not planning on going yourself,
I'm
are
gonna
you?
be away. Unfortunately, I wish I
Don't
could.
know.
I did the online version of it.
All right.
Take care, everyone.
See you guys.